Welcome back to the show, everybody. Exciting episode here. This is part two in the look into Benevolent Capital. We had Brett Johnson on a few episodes back, and now we have his brother Grant. Brett focused mostly on the, professional soccer, European football side of, sports, side of the family office, private equity work. And now we have Grant, who's the expert really on the other side, equity into businesses and, all the different companies that these guys are invested in. So Grant, super excited to have you on the show. It was so much fun with your brother and really excited to have you on here as well.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, my brother said exactly that. He said, you have to do this. So
Yeah.
here we are. And thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, maybe we'll just kind of start with just kind of your background. We had Brett's kind of your background and background of Benevolent Capital from your perspective.
Sure. Thank you. So Brett probably shared, we grew up in New York City, late 70s, early 80s. Brett likes to say, the mean streets of the Upper East Side. Then we went off to boarding school. We went to a place called Chode. That's where I discovered rowing and, really was passionate about it. Got recruited to row at Brown. And Brett, even though he was not a rower because we're identical twins, he likes to say he kind of rode my coattails. We loved it. We were at Brown, graduated in 92, but that's actually where the name Benevolent Capital comes from. We bought a house on College Hill at Brown University, an address called 90 Benevolent Street, which was right next to the Brown radio station, WBRU, at 88 Benevolent Street, right? So side by side.
Very cool.
That was the name of our first partnership, was Benevolent Investors. So that was the origin of the Benevolent name. And then graduated 92, ended up out in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and landed at a firm called Montgomery Securities. So pretty legendary boutique investment bank back in the day, that during that period of time from like 92 to 99 that I was there, took more companies public by number of deals than anybody else on Wall Street. And it was a who's who of major growth companies. That's what they were really known for. And it was that experience of being involved with that process of helping to take companies public that really shaped, call it, my investment thesis and background, is really focused in on high growth, exciting companies, but also understanding and appreciate what it takes in regards to, leadership, executive team. There's that great quote. I think it's from, maybe it's Jack Welch or Buffett. You might correct me, but I'll take an A team in a C industry over a C team in an A industry, right? And that goes to one of our major themes with our portfolio. And we tell all of the companies that we invest in to read the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. We literally like repeat the mantra, who not how, who not how, who not how. Because for us, it really is all about the individuals, the people, the who's. Because ultimately that's what you're really investing in. You might have a great idea, might have a great product, but it's the who's behind it that make the difference. So flash forward, early 2000s, Brett likely shared that family, we call it a family company, that our father was chairman and CEO. Brett was president, called Targus, the computer accessory company. Had a nice exit. It was great. It was very timely. And we really used that to establish Benevolent Capital. Originally, it's just an investment vehicle for Brett and myself to invest in things that we loved and we were passionate about. And over the, call it, ensuing 15 years, we had this eclectic and diverse portfolio of investments. And as part of it, Brett focused in on professional soccer because that's what he was really passionate about. And then the surrounding real estate. So obviously that stadium in my background is the stadium that's being built right now in Rhode Island. And then I focus in on our venture capital and private equity portfolio. And I joke that I free Brett up to do the really cool stuff, like go to soccer games and enjoy getting the promotion up to the Premier League, which was truly a historic moment.
That's pretty cool.
It was super
That's
cool.
amazing.
But I love what I get to do. And I'll just give it a little added context. So it was a little over 4 years ago that Brett and I got approached to invest personally into Aura Ring, which I'm wearing.
Yes.
It looks like I have two wedding bands here, but it's my Aura Ring and a wedding band. And we're literally obsessed with Aura Ring. We we text our sleep scores to each other every morning, no matter where we are. He's currently in London for a board meeting for
Okay.
Ipswich. And without fail, we send our sleep scores. We joke that at this stage in our lives with young children, we're competitive about who gets more sleep, right? Better sleep. But what happened was we got an opportunity to invest, and we said yes, like we love it, we're in, thank you. And then they came back and they said, well, we have more allocation available. Would you be interested? And we said, hold on, let us find out. And so we went out to our network. There was no real agenda. We just said, hey, we're presented with an opportunity to invest in Aura Ring. We love it. If you're interested in participating, let us know. And we got this incredible response. Like, we ended up investing $8 million into this. It was a Series C round at the time. So effectively 1% of the company. And that's how the venture side of our portfolio began, is as organic as that. And so what we did is we created a specific standalone LLC, an SPV, special purpose vehicle for that investment into Aura. And, part of what we've now standardized on is we decided, hey, we're not going to charge any management fees. This is an exclusive investment into a specific company. We're not Blackstone or KKRs, I like to say. We don't have offices to support in London and Tokyo. So no management fees. And then, I call it the benevolent formula. What we now offer and now we're on I think it's our 28th SPV that we've established over the past 4 years, including Athletic Brewing and Barcode, the healthy drink, and the latest is this Fly House that I'm wearing. So now it's been 20. It represents like 16 investments, but we've had multiple investments. 3 investments in Athletic Brewing is an example. But our formula that we standardize on is that every investment, as I mentioned, is exclusive to that investment in SPV, but we charge no management fees, and the investors have to get a double on their investment. So if the investors don't double their money, we don't make a nickel. But above the double, we get 30% promote. So we do very well, but we only do well after the investors have done very well. And as I mentioned, we've had so many of our investors from around the world that have said to us, we wish everybody we invested with took a page from that book.
Right?
Like, you don't make a nickel unless we double our money. Like, unheard of. And even that was part of the, if you want to call it the method to the madness. We thought, like, oh, well, what if we gave a pref? What would that look like? And then you start thinking, oh, what about, an 8% a year pref for as long as the investment was outstanding? And, who wants to do that brain damage? And
Right.
they said to Brett, we're not investing in companies looking for, a single or a double, quite honestly. We're looking for companies that hopefully are a 5 to 10x. I mean, these are grand slam type shots we're taking.
Yeah.
And again, that also creates a little bit of a curation element to it as far as what we look for. And why is if we see something that looks great, but again, we think that, maybe it's double. Well, it's not a fit for us.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gives hopefully I've given you the full span there of, they'll call it the origins of Benevolent, even the name and Benevolent Capital, but now with what I focus in on, which is the venture and private equity portfolio.
For sure. So so Fly House. So what's Fly House?
So this is our latest and greatest that we're most excited about. It is a very disruptive private jet charter platform that right now you can go on the App Store, right on Apple App Store, download the Fly House app. And just like Airbnb or Uber, you can put in that you're looking to take a flight from Atlanta, I live in the Atlanta area, to Los Angeles with 6 of you on Monday, and you want to return on Wednesday or Friday. And within 3 minutes in a reverse auction process, and they have patented technology behind this reverse auction process, they will serve up a listing of, I think it's 10 flights, 2 flights in every type of jet category. And what that represents is these are the planes that are on the platform that are literally bidding for your business, saying, hey, we want that flight, we want that flight. So it's as I described, it's Uber / Airbnb, but for private jet charter. Now, here's the other cool thing about the technology and the platform. They don't charge any management fees whatsoever. So a little bit like our model. They only make a percentage on bookings, right? So if your plane doesn't fly, it doesn't book, they don't get anything. Right? So they're motivated, they're aligned. And then the other really cool dynamic of this is, let's say you want to go to the Masters with a group of friends. You put in everybody's email address and it chops it up. So they call it friend share. So you can all split the cost of that weekend together, whatever the case may be. And one of the beauties about this model and why we're so excited about it is, one, it makes the product of private jet aviation a lot more accessible than it would be otherwise. You don't have to join NetJets for millions of dollars a year and get locked into long-term contracts, or these fractional card companies, again, where you have to put up hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to get the card, right? It's almost like buying a gift card. You give them all that money up front for the hope and promise that you're going to use it down the road. Like, not a really great model. So the founder of this is a dear friend of ours. We, Brett and I, are fortunate to be members of YPO, Young Presidents Organization. He's also a member of YPO. His name's Sandy Michelman, and he created this company because of all of his experience in the private aviation business. So his prior company was called Jet Edge, that he sold a few years ago for an enormous number. It was north of $500 million. And that sale had less than 100 planes on that platform.
Really?
But today, as I talk to you here, Flyhouse has over 1,000 planes on the Flyhouse platform, 1,000 planes that are bidding for Kip's business. And by the end of this year, when they officially come out of beta and launch, January 1 is going to be the official launch, but you can book a flight right now. They're going to have over 2,000 planes. And once again, those 2,000 planes are bidding for your business, saying, oh, we'll do it for 8,000. No, we'll do it for 7,800. No, we'll do it for 7,500. Okay. And at the end of 3 minutes, there are your options served up to you. And you might not just take the lowest option because maybe that plane isn't big enough for what you want. Or
I'm writing this down as you're talking. This is super exciting. I like this.
And again, as I mentioned to you, taking a step back in regards to the entire portfolio, Aura Ring, Athletic Brewing, Drink Barcode, Flyhouse, the first starting point for us to decide on investing in something is, do we love it? Are we passionate about it? I call it, the fire in the belly. Like, oh my God, that is so amazing. Or another way I look at it is, it's kind of the word of mouth portfolio, right? There's nothing more powerful than the word of mouth. So that's, I receive several deals a day, easily, right? Every day, several deals pass my desk. But the easy filter that I look at it is, would I use this? Would I drink this? Would I eat this? Would I subscribe to this? Would I tell friends and family about this? And if those boxes aren't getting checked, it's a pretty easy pass. And then, as I mentioned, we say to our investors, and now we have over 600 LPs spread out over all of our investments, at least that. But we say to them, hey, if you're not in love with this Flyhouse, pass. All good. No worries. Try Barcode. Tell us what you think of that, right? Get a drink of Barcode, and maybe you say, oh my God, I love this Barcode. It's so much better than, Prime or whatever else you might be drinking. Wonderful. That's what we want. Like, what we say is we don't want you to invest just because you think it's going to be a great return.
Yeah.
Right? Because we want you out there telling people about what you've invested in. There's a great book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Are you familiar with this book? Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing book. He has an entire chapter about, effectively, and I forget but basically the entire chapter's focus is, whatever you invest in, you better love it. Because if you don't love it, you're likely going to possibly sell it for all the wrong reasons at the wrong time, because, oh my God, it's down. You can't stand looking, and he points out it's that love that makes all the difference, and that we feel exactly the same. When I read that, I was like, that's what we do. Right? Like, if it's not the ultimate hell yes, then it's a hell no.
Yeah. I was telling Brett when he was on, number one, Aura Ring. It's like CrossFit or these other things where people are just absolutely obsessed, cultish with Aura Rings. And then also we were at this is now 3 weekends ago, maybe 4, at Ironman, Wisconsin, in Madison, and had so much Athletic Brewing. We went to a football game. It wasn't at the game, but everywhere else we went, Athletic Brewing was everywhere. And people absolutely loved it. And We haven't, we
Exactly.
got home and got a bunch at our house. I actually bought a bunch more after having bread on, but like it's so good. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
exactly. It's so good.
it's
And same
amazing.
thing. We wildly oversubscribed our opportunities to invest in
Yes.
athletic brewing. For exact, we said, hey, let us get you samples. And if you're not blown away by it, right? If you're not like, oh my God, I can't believe this is non-alcoholic. And
Uh-huh.
each round that we were fortunate to invest in was wildly oversubscribed as a result. When we were like, hey, can we have any more? And like, nope, sorry. Okay. And
Yeah.
that's exactly it is that and then of course you look at where athletic is and you see them everywhere.
Uh-huh. Are there any like just like as far as like opportunities you're most excited about now? Any, you don't have to name specific companies unless you want to, but like
No, I'm happy
just
to name because it's
or industries, we just what excites you the most now, or what are you seeing
well,
that just fires you
so I'd
up?
say an overall theme to the point of Aura Ring, athletic brewing, barcode. We have an incredible cookie company called Toto Cookies, and it's
Huh.
gluten free and it's got adaptogens in it. And
Hmm.
barcode, if you look at the product, it's coconut water with vitamins, minerals, magnesium, which basically everybody needs more magnesium.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha, which if you talk to certain people that know about ashwagandha, they're like it's a miracle herb.
Yeah, right.
But our thesis with all of that, including especially why someone should get an Oura Ring, is that basically anything that is a healthier, better, tastier version of what people are used to, that's going to literally disrupt an entire category, we're excited about. So obviously, athletic brewing is disrupting
Yes.
the alcoholic beer category because it's so fantastic. Well, I'd rather have an athletic than a real alcoholic beer. It's a
Yeah.
lot better for you. It's just as tasty, maybe even tastier,
Yeah.
and low calories, no sugars, all that good stuff. Same
Yeah.
with Barcode. So Barcode was founded by the former head of performance for the Knicks and the Lakers. His
Oh,
name is
really?
Bar. Yes, Mubarak. Um,
Huh.
Bar, and he developed the drink specifically to keep the players healthier and on the court longer. Because if they're
Interesting.
basically not playing, right, like they're not being of value to the team necessarily. So that was the origin of Barcode. And then Kyle Kuzman backed him and said, look, you got to go do this. And he was the
Huh.
first check-in and a co-founder of the company. And now they've got Victor Wemby, the rookie phenom from France,
Yes.
who is the global ambassador. And amazingly,
Huh.
Wemby turned down a major deal from Gatorade. And his response, and he said it, is, I don't personally drink this. Why would I get behind it?
Right.
And need more of that, truthfully, right? That integrity
I know.
and authenticity, I would call it, is that Barcode he actually drinks because it was designed for him. And along those lines, next month, um, Barcode is releasing their own signature Wemby flavor,
Oh, really?
Wemby, which was designed specifically for Wemby. As far as the taste profile and the features in it, I think it's got turmeric and ginger. Don't hold me to that, but I
Oh my
think that
gosh.
that's some
Yeah.
of the elements of
Sounds
it.
so good.
Right. And the idea is that basically what we believe is um, it is a better, healthier version of what most people are already used to, whether it's Gatorade, Body Armor, or Prime. I will tell you, perhaps the biggest feedback I've received from people that have tried Barcode, from investors of ours, is basically saying to us, like, I'm just looking for anything that might get my kids to stop drinking so much Prime. It's just
Yeah,
truthfully,
that stuff is so bad.
it's got I had to ask my wife because I had a sip of it and I was like, whoa, what is
That's
this? My wife
gross.
pointed out it was something called sucralose. You actually look up sucralose. It basically says that pretty much no one should be using this, like, at
Yes.
all. So that's been one of the things, and we fundamentally believe that Barcode is going to disrupt this category in a huge way. I mean, they're already doing it. They're signed with the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat, the San Antonio Spurs, so they are the exclusive hydration partners. But the reality is, like, because it's actually an amazing product,
Uh-huh.
and that's our thing. It's like, hey, let us send you samples or go pick them up. Erewhon in Los Angeles, for example, is also an investor, and you don't get into Erewhon if you're familiar with that store if you have bad ingredients. Like,
Right.
no chance. You're not seeing Gatorade and Prime in Erewhon.
Yeah.
So they invested in the company. And
Huh.
and so same thing when it was brought to us, first of all, I said, it sounds amazing, but I got to try the product because I don't drink Gatorade and Prime and all that stuff. I don't drink sodas, right?
Uh-huh.
And when I tried it, I was blown away by it. Just like, wow, this is amazing. And it's good for you. And actually, my wife lets our daughters have it, which is maybe the ultimate
That's
test.
the ultimate test for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
So we're very excited about Barcode for all those reasons. And also as part of what I was saying to you, who, not how.
Uh-huh.
It's an amazing team. It's got we see a lot of beverage deals. And when you look at a team, you're like, oh, these are a bunch of Wall Street guys that are just trying to cobble something together, right?
Right.
They don't live and breathe health and wellness and nutrition. And so again, that's where you look through it and say, and truthfully, to pull off getting Wembanyama of all athletes, I mean, they really believe that he is the future of the sport.
Yes.
A lot of there's been some articles saying that he might be the first billion-dollar basketball player from salary, from like how much he gets paid over the next 20 years.
That's incredible.
Not, endorsements, right? Yes, exactly. And obviously he had a huge Olympics.
Yeah.
And so I think just the coup that they pulled off getting him. Now, to be fair and honest, he has, similar to what Kobe Bryant had with Body Armor, he has a deal where he has invested in the company. So he invested in it, but where over the next 5 years, he gets increasing ownership. But the reality, this is partly his motivation, is that his stake in Barcode, if it has the potential exit that Body Armor did, could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars as a result, versus whatever he could have gotten paid per year, backing or sponsoring, being sponsored by Gatorade, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's taking a page from that book as well. He's kind of acknowledged that he wants to emulate himself both as an athlete and in the vein of Kobe on the court, but also as a businessman off the court.
Yeah. Boy, there's just so many of the athletes now are so much more intelligent, or maybe it's just more forward thinking about life after basketball or just business. And like, they're just making so much more intelligent decisions around that while they're still in the game. It's incredible.
Yes, it's phenomenal, and it's great, and it's the way it should be, right?
Right.
They're helping to make things successful. Of course, they should help participate in that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So, well, along those lines, Flyhouse just announced that one of their global ambassadors is the golfer Justin Rose.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, so very cool. You're going to start seeing when you watch Justin. He's got the Flyhouse name on his shirt, and he's got the Flyhouse golf bag, which is pretty sweet. And and then Wayne Gretzky recently signed as a global ambassador as well.
Okay.
So the name Flyhouse is going to start being seen, far and wide as a result. And same thing, but at the same time, Justin Rose and all these other professional golfers, that are really, they fly private most everywhere, right?
Right.
The same thing. Why do they necessarily want or need to be locked into a multi-year deal with NetJets, which is really prohibitively expensive? You got to put up all that money up front. You're locked in, when they could just get on their Flyhouse app and go ahead and book it.
Yeah. So smart. It's one of those things. It's all these, great things. It's like, why didn't I think of that? Like, it just makes so much sense.
The founder, Sandy Michelman, did, again, it came from his pain points as being a plane owner, as owning a prior aviation company, as being part of these fractional companies, right? So he's experienced, right? Part of it is like necessity is the mother of invention, right? That ultimately you figure out, like, wait, how would be a better way to do this? And one of the things, honing on Flyhouse for a second, about the overall industry, especially because it's such a high-end product, is that everybody that's in the industry is trying to figure out how to charge more for that product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Justin Rose that's booking this flight. Okay, let's raise the price. Whereas Flyhouse's model is trying to figure out how to offer that product for less. And the way they do this, where the owners say, yes, this is the low price that I'm willing to offer my plane for charter. And if it's there, great, it books. And if it's not there, if it goes below, somebody else gets it.
Yeah.
Now, the other really cool thing about their model, the Flyhouse model, is at the end of every month, when the owners of the planes get their statement within a few days of the month closing, which is also unique, right? There's your statement. It's very transparent. Here's how many hours your plane booked on the Flyhouse platform at, call it $8,000 an hour. But they can show and prove, hey, if you were willing to drop your price to $7,000 an hour, you would have picked up another 20 hours of charter. Like, wait a second, let me do the math there.
Right.
Oh, $7,000, 20 hours, 140,000. Wait a second, that's my monthly nut, on the financing the plane, insuring the plane stuff. You're like, oh, okay, gamify it, drop that to $7,000.
Yes.
Again, is bringing the price of that product down and making it, again, a lot more available and accessible as a result. And again, if, hey, you don't want to get $7,000, then keep it up at 8. No problem. Your prerogative.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
How about you talk about the who's, how, when you're evaluating, your investments in companies, other than just like loving the product, loving the technology, how do you evaluate the leadership team? You alluded to it a little bit, but how do you think about that?
I mean, great question. We do like backing winners, right? Obviously, individuals that have had success. I mean, but at the same time, we also appreciate, teams that have had losses, right? That, because one of the things I always feel about is show me how you proved yourself when things didn't go your way.
Right.
Because same thing, because nothing always perfect. So you don't necessarily want them to learn the lessons of failure on your dime.
Exactly.
And as I believe, you learn a lot more from the failures than you do from the successes. So part of it is saying, like, I always say, anybody that tells you that they never lose money, run, right?
Right.
We never lose money. Like, thank you very much. Amazing for you. I don't believe you, and I don't want to believe you. And if that is the case, if that is amazingly the case, it will not stay that case. And I don't
eventually you're going to lose.
Yes. And you're probably not going to know how to handle it, right? That getting off the mat, or getting back up of the ground. So that's one of the things we look for is part of it is also that it's a great team, because it's also not just about any one individual, right? So you need A players in every position, and there's the idea that if it's not an A player in that position, doesn't matter who it is, you gotta replace them. You gotta figure it out. Now that's not necessarily our job from an investment perspective to be that specific per se. We would mention it if they said, hey, we're looking for somebody. Well, make sure you got an A player, right? Don't just hire somebody because you heard from somebody else that they were good. Like, really make sure it's the best fit. And as they say, if it's not the right fit, got to fix it.
Yeah. How about unique in that you're doing this with your brother? How are the dynamics like?
Yes.
And
great
on top of that, your twin brother. How does that work?
Yeah. So thank you for asking. We're identical twins. We're 5 minutes apart. Brett likes to say, you just asked my favorite question, because I'm 5 minutes older.
There you go.
But at the same time, while we went to grade school together, boarding school together, college together, we majored in history, same classes. The interesting dynamic is that as much as we're identical, I actually probably have more and more like our father, and my brother Brett is more like our mom.
Okay.
Personality wise and trait wise. And I do believe that's one of the reasons why our parents have been married over 55 years. They have an incredible
God bless
marriage.
them. That's amazing.
Yes, amazing. 12 grandkids, all that amazing stuff. But same thing with our dynamic is that it's actually that Brett and I are complementary and additive to one another, as opposed to like butting heads. And along those lines, it's probably the reason why Brett worked so well with our dad. So our dad was chairman and CEO of this computer accessory company called Targus, and Brett was the president of the company, and they worked really well together. And again, because I think it was complementary. Whereas I tried working with a guy, and it just wasn't the same. It just really, and so that was partly why I left to start originally Benevolent Capital as a hedge fund of all things.
Okay.
And I like to say, during that period of time, I did really well when it was easy to do well, and did really poorly when it was easy to do poorly. And then what I realized is that I'm not meant to be, trading stocks publicly. Just I'm not. It's not my unique ability.
Okay.
And then maybe that goes back to your question or point earlier about teams. Sometimes figuring out what you're not great at and what you're not meant to be, and might be more valuable. And also, how do you bounce back from losses? And truthfully, it was trying to figure out, okay, I thought I was really good at this when it was easy, right? Like, but not so great about it when it's tough.
Yeah.
And like, you know, dust yourself off, but also figure out like, okay, maybe I'm better suited towards the private world. And I do believe I am, as
Yeah.
described.
Very
Um,
good. So you say you're like your dad.
yeah.
What are you and your dad like? And then what are Brett and your mom like? Like, how would you describe
Yeah.
the
Well,
two?
great question. So our father was an amazing salesman, and people person, and just amazingly genuine. And he's still alive. He's retired, but
Yeah.
um, but people tell you that, when they meet him, they just can't help but love our father. He's just got a
Uh-huh.
great personality and sense of self, but he's also a hell of a salesman. And I grew up many times. I remember sitting in his library, his study, his office, hearing him on the phone. And in so many ways, I think that also just played with me, because at the end of the day, a big part of what I do is raise capital for all of our investments. So I have to be a very good salesman. Um, Now, of course, what I would argue is that as good as I might be as a salesman, that the truth is you're only as good as what you're selling.
Right.
Um, so at the same time, another one of my beliefs from all the decades now that I've been doing this is, and I tell this to entrepreneurs, if you're having a problem raising money, it's not money's fault. Like, don't blame money.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you need to figure out why whatever you're trying to raise money for isn't gaining traction. And we mentioned, as I mentioned, our platform, we curate really unique investment opportunities, Barcode, Fly House, Athletic, we get an allocation into that opportunity. We create the SPV, and then we go out to our investors. Now, we had an offering that was absolute crickets. Like, I've never seen something like that happen before. But really what it was our crowd telling us, we don't really like, and I loved it.
Uh-huh.
But our crowd said, nope, pass. So that's another dynamic about what I think sets Benevolent apart, is that I don't think our portfolio would be as successful as it currently is if you look at each one of our names and how they're doing. And so far, we haven't had one wipeout.
Okay.
And I'm not going to, because of course, that's
Yeah.
something's going to happen. But for right now, but I think it's because of the crowd effect here. If I were sitting, Kip, on $100 million of discretionary capital that investors gave me, just, hey, Grant, if you like it, we like it, go ahead. It's not the same.
Yeah.
You need that, partly that filter, and that filter are hundreds of investors that also say, like, yeah, I agree with you. That Fly House is amazing. Thank you. Or that Barcode is awesome. Here we go. Let's participate. So that is also telling. And it again is as good as a salesman as I think I am. And again, partly because of that dynamic with my father.
Uh-huh.
And even like when I'm home and visit and I answer the phone, people are like, Howard? I'm like, no, it's not right, because I even sound like my father. And then our mom, to the point about Brett's
Yeah.
personality and traits, she was the former U.S. ambassador to Jamaica. So really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
It is super cool. We're very proud of her, and it was an amazing experience. And
Interesting.
they lived there for 4 years while my mom was ambassador. It was actually perfect timing. Our father had just sold Targus to private equity, and then our mom had found out that she was going to become the ambassador to Jamaica. So, as a family, we've probably been there 50 times over the years. And
Okay.
Brett actually got married in Jamaica. I mean, we love Jamaica, but
Okay.
our mom in that regard is an amazing diplomat, and diplomacy takes so many skills, and Brett possesses that.
Okay.
Actually, if there's something sensitive going on, it needs a little bit more of a diplomatic or softer touch. It's absolutely Brett. Okay, Brett,
Okay.
please handle this. You are the better diplomat than I am.
That makes sense. It would take that to do that stadium in Rhode Island, to do the teams. I mean,
That's exactly right.
that kind of stuff
You have
needs
to have,
diplomacy.
yes, and you have to have the ability to manage lots of different constituents and interests and all that stuff. So that really is where Brett is so much like our mom, and also our mom is the most amazing networker ever. I mean, her Rolodex is incredible. She is friends with everybody she's ever met in her lifetime because she's
That's
really
awesome.
genuine and sincere. And Brett's the same way. So that was one of the benefits of going to grade school, boarding school, and college
Yeah.
together, is that I would actually say that I, in each one of those, I had a really small, tight-knit group of a handful of really close friends. But by benefit and advantage of having Brett as my twin brother, it was as if I had so many more friends than I really did because I'm his identical twin brother. So,
That's awesome. And then we'll get back to Benevolent. How'd your mom get that gig to be the
so
ambassador? How did that come to be?
there's two ways effectively to become an ambassador. One is to right out of school, go to the State Department and become a lifer in the State Department and get posted all over the world and work your way up and get, call it the hardcore postings, which would be, like Iraq and,
Yeah.
like where you're a lifer diplomat that's getting put in there because of the fact that you've had decades of experience and training. And then the other is the currency of the realm, so to speak, that you help raise a significant amount of money for the respective party. And then it's part of the spoils of victory is that you get chosen. But our mom really did have a very unique, special friendship with George Bush Sr., 41.
Yeah.
And that when W got reelected in 2005, she actually, it was more her relationship with Senior that she said, "Hey, I'm thinking about this," and she said, "Okay, Brenda, I'll take care of it effectively." But the funny thing, the story goes is that W actually called her up, got her on the phone, and said, "Brenda, are you really sure you want this?" Right? Because like, hey, we're gonna go down this pathway now, and even then, truthfully, just because you may get the thumbs up from the president in this case, right? To become, you don't know where you're going to be posted. If you're going to pass approval, it is subject to Senate approval, right? The background vetting checks are insane, right? The FBI really does go to your nursery school and grade school and like check your transcripts and all that. I mean, so
Isn't that wild?
It's wild, but it also makes a little sense because of you are representing.
Yes.
And so that's the point is it's not just, oh yes, here you go, it's yours. No. And we've heard stories from other individuals over time that said, oh yeah, I was considering it, and then when I heard what you had to go through and the process, and no thanks.
Yeah. I have a really good friend I grew up with that works for a defense contractor, and as he got up the security clearance, they came and like interviewed all of us, like his grade school friends, and like the questions they asked, I was like, oh my word, this is like the real deal here.
Yes, it is. But at the same time, it's somewhat comforting in the sense that it's not, it's meaningful, right?
For sure. So the one that your whole group passed on that deal, did you and Brett do it anyway? Just the two of you, or
we did not? It was call it an uncomfortable conversation, having to go back and saying, hey, this is our model, this is our platform. We told you how we work, and unfortunately, the response was muted, and they were gracious about it, truthfully. But part of that is setting the expectations, because we explain that, hey, we love this, but now this is the process. We take it out to our network and say, hey, we really like this barcode. We're going to host a Zoom with the founder and the management team, and then typically what we also do is we start. So for example, when we first started with Barcode, we asked for a $2 million allocation into the company. And now, because the demand has been so strong, we kept going back saying, hey, can we have more? Can we have more? And it's $4 million allocation. Flyhouse, we started at a $10 million allocation. And again, same process, because the response has been so significant. We've gone back and said, hey, Sandy, can you let us go up to 15 million? And the answer's been yes, which we're grateful and appreciative for. So that's partly, we don't know until we're kind of out in the market, and we also say, look, they're not investing in us.
Right.
They're investing through us.
Yeah.
Right. So the big part of this is like, what's the opportunity? What's the timing on a potential exit? Who would be the potential, what would be the potential exit scenario, things like that. But I would say that majority of the investments that we have made end up being oversubscribed. It was just that one very particular case where it was,
Yeah.
And again, better to learn that very quickly.
Oh, for sure.
And early on. Yeah. But even we have another non-alcoholic called Best Day Brewing. We started with that one, 500,000 allocation. We ended up at 2.5 million, right? So just, I literally kept having to go back to see, can we have more? Can we have more? I also, one of the things that to me is really important about the who, not how, is when we have the demand that there's a willingness to take the money. I have this quote. It's actually right here next to my desk. It's from a famous case study from Harvard Business School. It's called, it's Rick Cohen. He's multi-billion, one of the wealthiest guys in the world. He has a company called CNS Wholesale. His company does all the wholesale to most of the grocery stores around the world. But his quote is, you can never get capital when you need it. So it's best to get it when you can. And point being is, like, as I say, if someone's willing to offer you money, the answer should be yes, right? Like, don't be foolish to turn it down. So my point with that is that we want entrepreneurs that are willing to take more capital when they can get it, as opposed to entrepreneurs that say, no, I'm worried about the dilution and what it might mean. And like, then you're focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
We're not sure we really want to be in, in the boat together. As I like to say, like using a rowing analogy, like, hey, we're in this boat together. Let's make sure we're rowing in the same direction. So that is definitely an early red flag, is again, because it's a great sign. Like, they should be saying, yeah, that's awesome. Your crowd is loving this, that you want more of it. Okay, let's go. All right, great. We're working together. That's what we want to see.
No, that's fantastic. How about, we talk a lot about, free markets, capitalism on the show. I mean, capitalist culture is the name. Maybe chat a little bit about how just our free market system here in America has benefited you and Benevolent and Brett and your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing like American capitalism and the history behind it, and what sets this country apart. And I, fundamentally believe that as long as we can continue to culture that spirit of entrepreneurship and risk taking, we will continue to sort of set the standards rest of the world. And that same dynamic, what we need more of in this country is, the willingness and ability to be pioneers and be disruptive and set the course. And that's what we love that. My brother and I, we were history majors at Brown. It was fabulous, but so much. And it's funny, I remember back at the time, I would get asked questions from people like, what are you going to become a teacher? Like, what do you do with a history degree? But I actually would argue that one of the best degrees for business is a history degree, right? Is understanding how to look at something and appreciate, well, there's been a version of this before, right? The tulip mania and the .com blow up, right?
Right.
They have enormous parallels. And, anyways, that says this time is different is, again, likely they don't know their history that well.
Right. I know. There's nothing new under the sun. And then you get that pattern recognition. You see the cycle, you see it happening again in a different area.
And that's also why, from our Benevolent Capital name, and we do take our name very seriously in the sense that we are trying to make everything that we do as win-win as possible, right? And so, as one of the things you mentioned, we don't charge management fees, and I said early on, that it just doesn't seem like that's aligned with our investors. If we're clipping, 2% a year on a $50 million portfolio, we're doing great, right?
Yeah.
But it's eating from the overall returns. And as well, we have less of an incentive for an exit necessarily, right? If we're like, no, we're doing. So that was a big part of that thought process as far as, hey, well, how can we be different? How can we set ourselves apart? But more importantly, how can we be as aligned as possible with each other, right? We, as I said, we only win if there's a successful exit. Otherwise, nothing really matters.
Right.
And the same thing, like, as great as the portfolio is doing, unless and until there's exits, nothing really matters.
Right.
Like, now, at the same time, all that being said, as I was saying to you, one of our other things is we don't just give the money and tell us how we're doing. We're very active involved with our, so I am on the phone consistently with the CEOs almost entire portfolio asking, hey, how can we be of help? And then
Uh-huh.
when we send out the quarterly updates and they come from the companies, we ask them in there, like, hey, put a need in there, right? Like, Best Day Brewing and Barcode said, hey, if you know of any, outlets that are looking for our product, please tell us. We want to
Yes.
get them in those doors. Awesome. Like, okay. And then, another one, Total Cookies, was looking to get into somebody specifically, I think it was 7-Eleven, and went out to our investor network, and one of our investors was like, yep, I know that person, right? So very collaborative, very win-win, that rising tide, again, what I like to point out, and this is part of the pitch that I make to a company like Flyhouse, even, we've known the founder for 20 years, or Barco, to say, hey, the beauty of Benevolent Capital is effectively you deal with one investor when all said and done, primarily me. And then we deal with, depending on the case, maybe 50, 60 investors. And so they love that, right? Like, wait, so I'm actually getting 50, 60 investors into
Yes.
Barcode. But I'm only dealing with one person, Grant Johnson. So it's very powerful in that regard.
Yeah. How about any advice you'd give to, maybe not aspiring entrepreneurs, but people aspiring to start, doing what you're doing, creating something like Benevolent, whether it's, people that just had an exit and they're going to create a family office, or they're just going to start in the VC realm or PE realm?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I actually was having a conversation with a young man the other day, and he was working kind of in the real estate industry and wasn't very passionate about it. And I said, along the lines, I said, well, first of all, you're young. And second of all, it's actually better for you to figure out early on that this isn't what you're excited about, rather than wake up one morning 30 years later
Right.
and realize, hey, you know what? I really don't like being a lawyer or an accountant or a doctor or, fill in the blank. I really wish I had done this. So first thing I said to him is like, hey, it's actually a good thing. It's a good thing that you're young and you're not loving it, right? Like, it's not that. And, when I was at Montgomery Securities back in the 90s, I fell into that job. Literally, it was a very renowned training program called the Sherpa program, and the idea was that you're one of the Sherpas that are helping the more senior people, ascend the mountain.
Interesting.
And they're getting the credit. You're supporting them in all ways possible, but no one knows who you are. And it was an incredible program, and I was very fortunate to get into it. And but you had to be at your desk at 4:30 a.m. every morning, and I loved it and couldn't wait. And the first month that I was in the program, there's a few interesting. One, I was the first non-MBA to get hired into this program. So up until the time when I got hired, they exclusively only hired MBAs. Like, if you didn't have your MBA, they wouldn't even talk to you. And who not how. I was fortunate to meet the head of the institutional equity sales desk, a guy named Craig Johnson, through a dear family friend, no relationship with the last name. And Craig just took a liking to me, right? Just like, and again, as I mentioned to you, I have, confidence in regards to selling.
Right.
So, and I basically was able to get an interview, get my foot in the door with two senior people. And my point to telling the story is, they said, okay, we'll hire him. Within the first month of getting hired, they fired two of the MBAs. And part of that mentality, I believe, was thinking that the hard part was getting the job, not keeping the job. And I remember I would see before they got fired, where in the afternoon, now it's 4:30 in the afternoon, and we've been there, and all of a sudden I'd see them getting ready to go, but the senior people they were working for were still there. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, that's not the best optics, right? It's not the best look. Get there early and leave late, right? Even if you're leaving 5 minutes after they leave,
right?
After they leave. So that was also part of, as I said, I loved what I was doing. I was excited, and then use that as your guide and barometer for what you're doing. Same thing. Don't just do it because you think you're going to make a lot of money. That's probably the worst reason.
100%.
And so do it because as I say, do what you love and the money will follow, right? Like, and figure. But at the same time, as I'm also describing, you have to have that love, that passion, that energy, right? To drive you, to fuel you. But at the same time, you also cannot be blind and deaf to what the market might be telling you.
Uh-huh.
So you have to as well listen. As I said, like, hey, you're having a problem raising money. No, there's these amazing stories about companies that take so long to raise money, right? And they're fabulous. About how all the meetings and all the passes. I think Airbnb was one of those stories about how many passes they got. But
Uh-huh.
interesting enough, probably because those guys, they were a bunch of kids from RISD, right? Like it's amazing. But again, at the same time, it wasn't like this rock star CEO.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's I mean, that was so disruptive. Like you're gonna let people come into your house, or even like
yes,
Uber, you're gonna get in a stranger's car and they're just gonna drive you. I mean,
yes,
so disruptive.
of course, and you
Yeah.
can see in where there would be that issue. But my point is, the first things first is as someone's maybe had an exit and they're trying to figure out what to do. As I described to you, I figured out when I was running the publicly traded portfolio, long short hedge fund, model. At a certain point, that's not my unique ability.
Uh-huh.
As Dan Sullivan, the author of Who Not How, would say, it's like figure out your unique ability
Yeah.
and then spend all your time and energies there and outsource everything else. So,
Yep.
for that individual entrepreneur that's starting something or had a big, figure out what that unique ability is and then delegate everything else. Don't try to think that just because you had a big success here that it translate somewhere else.
Right. Oh, very good. How about just thinking about legacy? How are you working to build like a lasting legacy with Benevolent and just with all your activities?
Yeah, that's a great. So I have two young daughters. I've got a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Ooh, you're in the
Yeah,
thick of it.
yes, I am. And I love it. And I'd like to say it
Awesome.
keeps me young. And it's funny that they know who, not how, right? They hear me talk about it all
Uh-huh.
the time. And when we're out and about in Chattanooga, where I live, and we see athletic brewing on the menu, they know, hey, that's one of our investments. Or
That's
we go
so
to the
cool.
store and we get barcode. And my wife and my 9-year-old, they saw it. They're like, oh my God, barcodes in Chattanooga, right? So now we go there. So one is part of the legacy. I love that I'm instilling in my daughters an understanding and appreciation for what dad does for a living, what it
Yes.
means to us as a family, right? It's part of the freedom and flexibility that we had, as I mentioned, to move from Greenwich, Connecticut, where we were a little over 3 years ago, and realize I didn't need to be in that Greenwich, New York corridor any longer, commuting into the city, not really happy with that, the
Uh-huh.
commute, and said, yeah, we can live somewhere else. And so they understand and appreciate it that dad's fortunate to have this freedom and flexibility that I can run Benevolent Capital from Chattanooga of all places, primarily thanks to Zoom like this.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I still travel and I love to travel and go meet with companies and go check out offices and breweries, whatever the case may be. I love that
Yeah.
stuff. But again, to be able to do it from here. So to your point about legacy, I actually have a hope that maybe one or both of them would be interested in getting
Uh-huh.
into the business down the road. But even if they don't, like my early days listening to my father, at least they have a good understanding and hopefully appreciation for what I do and how I do it. And I said to my 9-year-old the other day, when she's talking about things that she's interested in and passionate about, she really likes baking. And I said, you know what the most important thing is? Just to be happy.
Uh-huh.
Focus on happiness, because
Yes.
it's cliche, but life is too short not to be happy.
Right.
And so I said, hey, if it makes you happy, do it. And I say, even though most people would say I would not want to have to get up at 4 a.m. to be at the desk at 4:30, right? I get it. That if that doesn't make you happy, don't do it.
Right.
It made me very happy. Like, truly, I miss those days, right? I look back on
Uh-huh.
them so fondly. Like, if I only knew then what I knew now, right?
Right. I know. I know.
Yeah. So that's as far as legacy. If there's a legacy I could leave is where they say, hey, dad was willing to take the risk to move our family to a place that we are happier in. We're very happy here. We love it. We're surrounded by nature, great quality of life, lower cost of living. As I said, no state income taxes. That's kind of a big thing for me.
Amen.
Yes. And so again, where they could say, hopefully to their own children someday, yes, your grandfather, he moved us and he did it because of, following his own desire to be happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then again, hopefully with the portfolio where they're looking and also saying like, yes, I want to participate. I want to consume things that are better for you, right? Nana, look, I will tell you, to be a little bit more personal about the background in the non-alc space, I made the very personal decision to stop drinking over 10 years ago. And truthfully, I was drinking too much. I was really wrestling with it. And then finally, when I made the decision to stop, I like to say, like, everything became better and easier. Like it was,
Yes.
it was the hard part was the wrestling. Oh, today I'm going to take it easy. Or
Yep.
it was this middle. It was when I finally just said, nope, I'm stopping. When I cut it out, everything dramatically improved. My relationship with my wife, my now wife, my children, right? They've never had to see dad drunk. My relationship with my friends, my business, So Brett and I actually describe the not drinking as a superpower. We actually do, like at this point in our lives, like we travel all over the world for these YPO events. I do an amazing program every January at Harvard Business School for a week, a super intense week at the business school with the professors, 200 people from around the world. It's really late nights and early mornings, and it's almost like you feel like you're back at camp.
That's
But to
awesome.
be there, that experience, and not drink is phenomenal, right? Because you may be tired in the morning, right? And one of the jokes is I actually don't look at my Aura scores that week because like it's going to say like, hey, you need to, do you have COVID? Do you need to, right? Because my readiness is so bad and all that. But that's another legacy where I hope that children that make their own choices and their decisions, but at least they have the model of seeing dad make the choice of not drinking but at the same time have these incredible alternatives, non-alcoholic versions that are available that give you what I like to describe, again, why we have multiple investments in the non-alcoholic space, is that what people really are striving for is that amazing experience and connectivity, right? The social element of it.
Yes.
Like raise a glass. You don't want to be that, I describe it, that dork in the corner with a Poland Spring. Which, by the way, is part of the reason, even though we're not investors in it, Liquid Death is one of my most favorite companies because
I love it.
Right? It's just brilliant.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah.
And it's the same thing, but you want that cool experience. You're drinking a badass can Liquid Death, but it's just mineral water, right? Kudos to them. I like to say that, man, I just wish I had seen that one. I didn't.
Yeah.
But I've met some people that have, and I'm like, good for you. Like that would have been one we would have been all over.
Yeah.
For all the reasons. But so that is part of, to describe legacy. My hope is that my own daughter is seeing the choices that I've made in my life. And I said, yeah, don't worry. I agree. It's funny. I have a younger brother-in-law, and he said to me, "And I can't believe you stopped drinking." And I said, "Arseni, you're 27. I stopped at 44." Right? Like, talk to me in 20 years, right? Like, don't worry. I said, trust me, I never would have stopped in my 20s, and I certainly didn't stop in my 30s. But all of a sudden, right? So the same thing, like, it was very thoughtful and complimentary. Like, he's like, I can't believe you did it. I'm like, wait, hold on. I did it at 44. Now, I'm 54, so it's been 10 years. And like you said, I view it as truly one of the great decisions. But also it adds a little bit extra to why we're so passionate about that category and why we believe those trends are continuing to accelerate.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the social thing for people. It really is more than anything.
Yes, that experiential of like celebrating together, at a great sporting event.
Right.
But at the same time, hopefully feeling great and remembering. I mean, so the night before Ipswich Town got promoted to the Premier League, and there was a must-win game at the end of the season. My brother and I hosted this great dinner at a beautiful place called Seckford Hall, just down the road. And we brought one of our portfolio companies, this French premium non-alcoholic brand called Le Petit Beret. We had them fly in from France and served it as part of the evening, and at every meal they paired it. And I mean, it's phenomenal. And again, the experience, right? So it had the spirits and the wines and the version of champagne. You can't call it champagne if it's not from Champagne.
Right.
And the beers, but all non-alcoholic. And everybody had an amazing time and an amazing experience. But the best part was the next day, in this incredible day where they won and they got promoted up. And we all were, yes, exactly. Like, wow. And no one was, and by the way, if that had been me, 11 years prior, the next day I would have been like, oh, my head and, and the boy, hair of the dog and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's additive to it. And we did have so many people that still drink, good for them, but that said to us, like, thank you for that experience, because we had a great time, but we also felt amazing the next day.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. Well, good. Maybe we'll just end with one more question. Just kind of sum it up just for you. And you've touched on this in so many ways, but for success, what does success mean for you personally?
Yeah. Wow. I love it. So another quote, I'm going to just read it to you because again, it's on my wall here. So I'm going to pull it down.
For sure.
So it's again from Morgan Housel: use money to gain control over your time, because not having control over your time is such a powerful and universal drag on happiness. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want to, pays the highest dividend that exists in finance. So again,
amazing.
That is on my wall, staring at it. Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money. And that's why I put it up there, because that sums up what it's all about for me. It's not the scorecard. It's not the, silliness. It's just to do what I want, with who I want, where I want, when I want, and to be happy, right? Nothing worse than like that idea of like, he who dies with the most toys wins. No, you lost, dude. Right? Like,
right.
Especially if you're not happy. But wait, by the way, have the toys if you're happy. Don't get me wrong. But again, the happiness and the freedom and flexibility needs to be the real measure and barometer.
Totally. And to like quote Dan Sullivan, like if you want something, you want it because you want it. Like you don't need to like give a reason. Like I want this because I want it, no matter what it is.
Well, and again, Dan Sullivan is so influential, and Brett and I are both doing the strategic coach, and not only who, not how, and how I quote that book every day, but his other book, 10X is easier than 2X. Same thing. Our ambition and goal is to 10X Benevolent here, in the years to come. But he has another great quote: if you have money to solve a problem, then you don't have a problem.
Right.
Yes. And again, it's so simple, but it's so true. So when you ask me, about money and success, and well, my hope is for the money that I, hope and expect and to make is to solve problems, right? And maybe one of those problems is make sure that I'm living where I want to live and being with who I want to be, right? All that good stuff, right? And focus in on the happiness thing. So it's funny how some of the simplest sayings are the most poignant and powerful.
Yeah, it's like things are simple. They're hard, but it's simple.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not that look, as the saying goes, if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? But at the same time, if you love it, it should be easier, right? It's easier to get up in the morning for that 5 a.m. flight or whatever they might be, or to be out late, whatever, or all the stuff that you have to deal with just in general. Like another thing my brother and I say all the time is give thanks in all circumstances. Yeah, it sounds really straight.
So good. But
all of a sudden, sometimes the deal you don't get is a blessing, right? Or sometimes the investor you don't get is a blessing. Or we had a situation the other day where someone was considering an investment and they passed. And just give thanks in all circumstances. You just don't know. And so that's the same thing. Like have that attitude of like, hey, be grateful. And usually you'll find out down the road like why the universe was looking out for you.
Yes.
Right. So same thing, have that attitude of, okay, give thanks. Like, don't say, oh, I can't believe it. And they passed and I did so much work on it. And why did they do that? Right. No. Focus on the wrong things. Another, again, book that I think has been particularly helpful for me is a title called Go for No. And same thing when I tell entrepreneurs, look, go for no, because you learn from the no's, right? Okay. Why are you passing? Is it a timing issue? Is it a product, right? It's in the no's that you actually learn something. Yeses, you don't learn anything, really.
Right.
It's like, oh, yes, because I think it's great, because I think of, because I have a plane, whatever, it's the no's. Okay, find out more. But just also don't take no for an answer at the same time. It's, the other day, I did have someone that said no to one of our things. And I said, well, before you pass, just take the time to watch the Zoom recording and at least make it an informed no. And they wrote me back and they said, you're right. I didn't look at the recording. I will. And I said, great, like, no problem. You may still say no, but at least you saw it, you learned about it, you heard about it. Part of that is, as well as my mentality is so that if my house is successful as I believe it's going to be, they can't say to me like, boy, you didn't try harder, right? Well, I did. I told you to watch the Zoom recording. And the funny thing is I said, I went to my girls afterwards and I told them the story, and they totally know. Oh yeah, go for no is another one of my titles, right? Who not how, go for no. 10x is easier than 2x. So again, from the
Uh-huh.
legacy point, they know that I have these certain things that I keep repeating over and over and over again.
Oh, that's amazing. I always talk about in our groups. I mean, things are, especially with your kids and your people that work with you, things are caught, not taught. Like it's not what you
Yes,
tell them, it's what they see you
yes,
do, it's what they hear you doing. Like it's caught.
love that. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yes, is from what they see and experience and hear.
right.
Yeah, that's powerful.
No, for sure. Well, good. Well, Grant,
Yeah.
this has
Well,
been
thank you. I
amazing.
I will tell you, I have fundamentally enjoyed this more than you have. So
I
thank you.
don't. This
I
is amazing.
I hopefully you can tell that I love what I do. I
Yes.
I feel blessed and fortunate and grateful that I get to do it. And I particularly appreciate you inviting me on to allow me to share that passion. So
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you.
well, thank you. I think we all benefit from this, and I hope people share this show because this was incredible.
Thank you, Kev. Have a wonderful day, and look forward to hopefully being back someday.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So that was Grant Johnson, Benevolent Capital. Thank you so much. We'll share all of your contact info and socials, all that kind of stuff in the notes here. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.